Joe and I'm an addict.
What's up, Joe?
Hey, I want to say welcome to anybody that's new or your first time here or that kind of thing. If you're new to recovery, sit down, give yourself a break. It's always confusing at first. It's like that for anybody that's new or the first couple of times at meetings. I remember, or I don't remember any of my first meetings that I was at. I went to my first meeting when I was 14. I went to an AA meeting, the sister fellowship or brother fellowship or whatever. I was on probation at the time for getting in all kinds of different trouble and had to get papers signed and do that kind of stuff. But I had gone to about, maybe 20 different meetings when I was younger and then faked the signatures for a bunch of other ones and that kind of thing. I wasn't ready at that time. I think I was too immature. I just didn't really care. I just showed up because I wanted to, because I had to, because I was forced to. And I'm going to give you a little bit of my story. I don't think I've ever really told my full story at a meeting. I've done a little bit of H&I, speaking and some other stuff like that, but I haven't really gotten a chance to really share my story. So I am 36 years old. I was born out in Morris, Illinois. It is halfway between here and Starved Rock. It is a small little community, and I lived out there till I was in third grade. Very small town. I think there's, 10,000 people there now, so there was even less back then. My dad used to work for Commonwealth Edison. So he used to work at the power plants, kind of like Homer Simpson or something like that. And I kind of always thought of myself as like Bart Simpson. So Chernobyl happened in 1988. And in 1989, my dad took a different position at ComEd, and they started to close down a lot of the nuclear power plants. So I moved from little town Morris, Illinois, technically the outskirts called Marseilles, and then moved to Lombard, Illinois, where there was like 55,000 people or 45,000 people. I may be right around there. And so I went from this real small town living to being like what I felt like was just overwhelming, with all kinds of different things going on. And this is the middle of third grade. It was the middle of the school year when it was like December or January, like when I started classes there. And I didn't know anybody. And everybody else knew each other and was all involved with all kinds of different activities and sports and stuff like that. So my first year, I was just trying to meet anybody. I lived right on the outskirts of town, so I had to walk 3.5 blocks to get to the bus stop. It was really weird. I was 9 blocks away from a place called Glenbard East, but I don't know, they bused me 32 blocks to Willowbrook. So I always thought that was kind of weird. So I always, so there weren't very many people that went to my school that lived right around me, so I met a few people that went to other schools, and the one close friend that I met in the program, or he is in the program or was in the program, but I met him, back in grade school then, and he was a kleptomaniac. And, his name's John. He's been in and out of the program a few times. He lives, I think, in Tennessee now or something like that. But, he was my best friend, and there was really nobody else that lived very close to me that I, got to see regularly, besides a couple other kids on the bus or whatever. But so I grew up, going from a small town living to being thrown into a mega school. I remember my first and second grade were together because there weren't enough students where I was going to school. And it was the same thing like kindergarten and first or something like that, or kindergarten and preschool were together. So I went from having 15 kids in my class to having 30, 35 kids in my grade. And I was just kind of wow, there's a lot going on here. So from a young age, I was always trying to show off, to try to fit in, to do things, to get noticed or recognized and that kind of thing. And I think that's kind of where a lot of my addiction kind of, blended into my, my life so fast or whatever from that point. I don't know, with my parents, I always seemed to get along pretty well with my dad. You know, he just was more interested in reading a book or watching TV. And my mom, you know, still to this day, she has this habit of kind of following me around and wanting to tell me what I need to be doing, you know, even today, but especially when I was younger. And I have a lot of mommy issues. Never really got along very well with her. I try to love her now, but we do have our differences of opinion. And that's okay. It's healthy. You know, things are going to change as you get older and that kind of thing. But at the time, I was very rebellious. I was a rebel with no cause. I would just run around, you know, causing trouble. Like I said, my friend was a big thief, and he loved to steal bikes. And my mom kept getting very inquisitive about why I have all these new parts all over my bike and why I have like the shiniest looking bike in the, you know, in school. And I learned to manipulate at a very young age, and I would always manipulate John and, you know, hey, can you get me some mags for my tires? And then I had like 6 pairs, and you know, it was one thing after another is how this led. And, you know, his disease was running rampant, and I was just following along, and that was kind of like where a lot of my, you know, disease started. I started smoking at a young age. I believe that the first thing I did was alcohol, and John and I decided to steal it from my parents. We had a couple of beers, I think, before then, but then we got more and more interested in it, and we stole a bunch of, I think it was Seagram 7. It was horrible, whatever it was. I just remember how crappy it tasted, and being like, okay, we gotta like plug our noses to try to drink this stuff. And we took the Seagram 7 and then we filled it up with water. And yeah, they found out about it later on down the road. And, you know, I remember, you know, getting in trouble and getting grounded quite a lot, which what I always thought, you know, getting grounded was just more time to plan up some devious shit. You know, I had a good opportunity to come up with, you know, good plans of like how I was going to get in or out of trouble, you know, in the future. And, you know, from a very early age, I was grounded quite a lot. So I tend to be a loner for the most part. I do a lot better with one-on-one conversations than I do with like speaking. Like right now, I'm pretty nervous. You know, I know you can't tell, but that's just because I'm blabbing so fast. But yeah, so. You know, my disease progressed very quickly from like having a couple of cigarettes. My friend John, his mom smoked, and she would let us smoke and buy us cigarettes, and then we would steal cigarettes, or he would, and I would get them from him because, you know, I let him do all the stealing, and I was just the lookout guy. That was the role that I played, you know, when I was a kid or whatever. And, you know, I did steal a few times and got busted every time, it felt like. I got busted once at Enchanted Castle for stealing a Michael Jordan Bulls stuffed jersey from behind the wall, and I got busted. I didn't run. John ran. I didn't run. I don't know what it was. I got busted another time at Sports Authority for stealing a slingshot. Yeah, that's back to the Bart Simpson thing. I don't know what it was. It was something along those lines, but I wanted to steal. You know, baseball cards. I got caught at a Kmart when I was young. I don't know. It was popular. I still have them, I think, or a bunch of them. You know, I still got a big collection. I don't know if they're worth any money, but I do have Frank Thomas rookie and some other stuff. But that, you know, that was what it was like for me growing up. Was I was always trying to fit in, and I had a bad example, you know, at the time that was around me, and then, you know, that kind of attracts other bad examples is kind of what I noticed. So. A lot of my friends were like, you know, started to get a little bit wild or whatever and that kind of stuff. And this is still like 11, 12, 13. I ended up getting put on probation because I kept coming home late because I was messed up and I didn't want to, you know, my mom to catch me because she would do the breath and eyes test on me and, you know, and want to talk to me for 15 minutes before I went to my room or whatever. And so she was this little like hawk of a watchdog, and, you know, and really, it kind of pushed me away from her more and more. And at that time, I started running away from the house about 12, 13, 14. And I wouldn't come home for a week at a time. There was a 28-day period where, I look back on these days where I ended up getting to Ohio, and there was, at the time, I think it was the second coming of Woodstock, and I was trying to go to it. That shows a little bit of my age or whatever, but it was like 92 or something like that, or 93 or 94. And I was trying to do the 25-year reunion of it, but I only got to Ohio. And then I remember the guy that I was with, we stole a 12-pack of Gatorade from a gas station that was like right where like the bottles of windshield washer fluid normally are. And they had stacked up a bunch of Gatorade there, and we tried to steal some of that, and we ended up getting busted, or he got busted for it, even though I stole it. And then I ended up going back home, and that was the 28-day, kind of adventure. So I always, thought of myself as an adventurer, and just kind of wanted to see the world and do some different things. And running away from home gave me a thrill. It did. It kind of filled that hole that was inside of me at a young age. And drugs filled it too, and getting attention filled it too. I always tried to be the funny guy in school and get everybody's attention, and it was just what I by moving out there in like third, fourth grade, I started to get a lot of negative attention, and that just drew negative people to me, and and that's how this whole pattern started. So I was put under probation when I was 14 or 15. I got put into the psychiatric ward in Downers Grove, Good Samaritan Hospital. They tried pumping me full of a bunch of Prozac and Wellbutrin and a whole bunch of different medicines to try to make me better or whatever. And really, it was more of an internal thing. I was spiritually broken. I didn't really care about being a productive member of society. I was a kid. That kind of happens at times. But I just didn't know what I wanted to be, but I knew that I wanted to do the opposite of whatever my mom said. And I know it really hurt her, and it was difficult doing my my ninth step amends with her, but I'll come back to that in a minute. But so I was young, and I was forced to go to a bunch of like 2 meetings a week or something like that at the time, and they were like, it'll do you good, and you got to do outpatient. And so I went to an outpatient treatment in Winfield at Central DuPage Hospital. I had this old counselor there, Scott. He would drive me insane. I think it's Scott Hollenbeck or something like that. And it's funny the things that I remember from that time frame or whatever, but he always told me, Joe, you can do so much more. All you got to do is just put some effort in and, become a better person and do a little bit more and do, that kind of thing. And I fought it for like another 2 years. Finally, after getting in trouble for stealing and doing all kinds of things, up until I was about 16, the judge said, you got 2 choices. You can go to rehab, or you could go to juvie. And I had already been to juvie once for 30 days in the middle of the school year, so that was already like I had already been there. So the judge said, you need to go to rehab. And it was supposed to be a 30-day stint, but when I got there, it turned into a 90-day stint. And that was September 3rd, 1996. I remember it pretty clearly. About 8 o'clock, my grandfather, who has now passed away, came over to the house with my grandma. And they had been trying to help me and keep an eye on me and hang out with me that summer and, keep me away from some of my friends and stuff. And I would always steal from my grandpa because he would keep his money clip in his hat, and he would leave it on the dining room table like all day long. So I'd constantly take a 20 out of there whenever my parents would send me over there if they were working or whatever. So my grandpa comes over to my house that morning on September 3rd, and he's like, crying. He's old. He's 75, 80, somewhere right around there. I remember that he had bad arthritis, so only 2 of his fingers would come up, and he was like, you got to go get some help for yourself. I want to see you healthy or whatever, before I die or, before things happen or whatever the case is. So, I was like, all right, because I was really fighting going to rehab. I was like, well, I could just do, 30 days in juvie again. That wasn't bad, I could deal with that, so. anyway, in the end, I ended up going to rehab. I still fought it for a while I was there. At the time, I was under 18, and you could not smoke there, but I was a smoker. So I went to a place up north called Gateway. It's in Lake Villa. And I was there for 92 days. From September to like December 3rd or 4th or something like that, you know. And so while I was there, I got in a bunch of trouble and got put on laundry duty. While I was there, I got in trouble for smoking all the time because we would go in the bathroom and we would stand on the counter in the toilet by the fan and blow smoke up at the thing and try to smoke a cigarette in 2 minutes with all 4 of your little roommates or whatever. And, you know, did some devious shit that way too. And we kept getting busted because we would get the cigarettes from the adults when it was lunchtime. They would like slip us packs or do whatever. So that was how we kept getting cigarettes, you know, over there. But I don't know if that's changed or whatever, but I remember it pretty vividly. So on the 42nd day, I got in trouble and I got put into the solitary room. I was there for a day. They brought me 3 square meals, and I kind of sat there and said, what the hell am I going to do with my life? Now, at this point, it was my 42nd day in there. I started to get all the pot out, the alcohol out, the pills out, and that kind of stuff, so I started to see things a little bit more clearly. And anybody that's new, I recommend getting past, 30, 45, 90 days. Go to as many meetings as you can, because there's this poison and toxic stuff in our bodies from doing these drugs that causes, me, for example, to lose perception of reality and start to twist things towards however I want it to be. And so, at this 42nd day, I had a whole day to myself, and before I went back to my roommates or whatever, and I was like, I'm gonna give this some effort, and the rest of the 47 days or whatever it was. I was a star pupil, or whatever you want to call it, at Rehab, and I liked it. I became the leader of the laundry and the snacks, commissary is what we called it. And while I was in Rehab, Big E died or Tupac died. I can't remember exactly which one, but one of them died while I was in Rehab, which was pretty cool because our counselors there ended up playing like Biggie all day or something like that. I think it was Biggie. Yeah, I remember that. So that's another reason why I like some of that old school rap stuff, if you ever hear me blasting out some stuff or whatever. So, but yeah, it was just the era, the time frame, and that kind of thing. But I decided to give it a go and put some effort into it, and I could feel the results. I could see recovery working in my life. And so I got a little bit nervous when I was getting towards the end of the 90 days when I was in rehab, and I had ended up getting my GED, because in Lake County, you didn't have to be 18 to get your GED. So I got my GED in there. It took me twice to pass it, and the Constitution too. And so I ended up doing that, and then December 3rd or 4th I got out, and I went to a meeting. And I don't exactly remember what day it was, but I do remember the meeting that I went to. It's not around anymore, unfortunately. It's a place called Spiritual Journey. I met one guy in the room here tonight there many times, and I remember going there, and there was this awesome guy. His name was Francois. I think he's in North City now. And I remember going there, and I was just nervous, and I was by far the youngest person in the room, It was my, one of the first NA meetings that I remember going to and wanting to be there, I guess, is the kind of thing, is like my attitude changed while I was in rehab. So I went there, and this guy Francois gave me a book. I have it at home. I wrote on the side of it, like, do not sell, because I used to sell everything that I could get my hands on, try to come up with money for stupid, things or drugs or alcohol or whatever. So, and then I had a whole bunch of people around that time frame sign it, and, and that kind of stuff to draw memory. And I ended up staying clean till I was about 22. So I stayed clean for about 5 years, 21, 22. It was right around there. Now, I had gotten clean when I was young, and there weren't very many young people in the rooms when I had gotten clean back in '96. Early 97, and there was one other guy that started coming around about 5 or 6 months after I had gotten clean. His name is Brian. Most people know him. He's got he just celebrated 19 years recently here, and he and I were, the two. We became friends very quick and started to hang out quite a lot. He's my grand sponsor now, and we started to hang out, and I started to chair a meeting called the Pancake Breakfast at Spiritual Journey. It was once a month on Saturday mornings. And I remember at the end of the closing of the Pancake Breakfast, I decided to say, boy, I wish there was more young people around here like me and Brian. And boom, it was like NA became like a young crowd shortly after then. And, as I look around the room, there aren't too many people over 30, and that kind of thing. Because this, overnight, became a younger fellowship of people, being able to, feel comfortable talking about things. I remember, going back to when I had gone to both AA and NA, because a lot of my old counselors and therapists said, just go to both until you figure out what you like more, what you feel better with, and that's normal, to do. But I just felt better with the language of the basic text compared to the big book and some of that other stuff. Our Living Clean book is one of the most phenomenal recovery books ever written. I would put it up against anything. And if you haven't gotten a chance to read the Living Clean book, I highly recommend it. It has totally helped. It's for not only just getting clean, it's for developing a relationship with a higher power, getting to what it's like to be clean after a year or 2 or 3 or 5, what it's like to be in relationships of all sorts, with family, with other people. That book really goes through a lot of detail on how to deal with things. So I had gotten clean when I was 16, and ended up staying clean until I was about 21, 22. And I was what they call clean and crazy. I'll use that term loosely. At that time, there used to be a dance every weekend in some town or some city, and so all weekend I would go to dances or events that were going on. Like I would drive all around the South City to 159th and Dixie Highway. They used to always have dances down there, and I'd go to all the Halloween dances and all the New Year's dances and all that kind of stuff. And I always liked that kind of stuff. Being a young attention getter. It was always a lot of fun to, go to that stuff and see who was going to be there and, and do stuff like that. So I ended up getting into a relationship. I don't even know if it's called a relationship, if it happens in quicker than like 45 days. But I ended up getting somebody pregnant that was early on in the program. And I now have almost a 16-year-old son who is starting to drive and do other things like that. But I was so young, I was trying to be responsible, but I was being too responsible because I was never around. And that's why my old relationship never worked out. It kind of sucks, but the blessing is my son, and the last few years, our relationship has gotten so much better. But my point of saying that is, if you're young and you're new in the program and you want to try to get into a relationship real quick, maybe pump the brakes a little bit and give yourself a break, and maybe not jump into a relationship or things like that real quick, because it definitely affected me staying clean in the future and my ex. So relationships, our basic text says, can be a very painful area. It doesn't say you can't have one. I've heard a lot of old timers say, you should have a year or more before you get into a relationship for your own good. I always say, how can you love somebody else when you can't love yourself? That's my big thing in my head, is like, gosh, I need to figure out who I am. And we do that by working steps. So anyway, I had a son. Things got chaotic. I kept, thinking, gosh, I've never been to a bar. I've never done this. I've never done that. And all these different, what we call reservations, kept popping up. And being young and in recovery, I was not aware that my disease was with me 24 hours a day. And I did not realize that I had to fight the thoughts that are inside my head. And I stopped going to as many meetings as I was because I had bought a house and I had kind of moved a little bit further west, and things were just a little bit more difficult. And I ended up making a bad decision, it didn't just happen. It was a slow progression of me not going to meetings, not calling my sponsor regularly, not being involved with service work, which is one very important tool of this program. It was a whole bunch of things all leading up to me cutting my grass one day, and my neighbor out, just finished cutting his grass. That's why I cut mine, is because he just was doing his, and I was like, boy, I better cut my grass and be responsible. So when I got done, he was out back drinking a beer, and he's like, you want one? And I'm like, no, I'm fine. And then he's like, oh, come on, these are special, right from Mexico. And I was like, okay, and it was just all so quick. It was so quick. And from there, it was like, oh, well, that didn't kill me. And I'm talking about my relapse here and what happened and how it happened and that kind of stuff, so that you could kind of be aware in case that happens to you, because relapse does happen. It doesn't happen for everybody. I know a lot of people that have picked up one white key tag, but my story is that I did relapse, and it was a very painful time in my life. So I justified it. I was like, oh, well, I had 2 beers with the neighbor, and I didn't kill anybody, go to jail, get in trouble, violate probation, do anything. And I was like, all right, well, this isn't too bad. So I was like, I'm not going to do that anymore. And I'm not going to tell anybody about it either. And I just let it go for a week. And then the next weekend, I was like, oh, I always wanted to have a Jack Daniel's cooler. I always thought those looked cool, and I was trying to mentally justify all this shit in my head. And when I was in rehab, I stopped smoking cigarettes, and I picked up a pack of cigarettes and some Jack Daniels the weekend after having that beer, after telling myself, oh, it's okay, I didn't hurt anybody, kill anybody, do anything, nothing happened, I'll be okay. Maybe it was just a phase I was in as a kid. Maybe it was a phase. That's how, twisted my thinking gets about things. So it was a slow progress to get back to how horrible it got during that 7 years of actively using. And it was one of the most painful times that I got goosebumps right now, because I hate thinking about how I went from being a pretty happy person because of this program, because of these steps, having a sponsor, being involved with stuff, to all of a sudden slowly deteriorating to wanting to kill myself again, not wanting to live, not wanting to fight anymore, just letting things go by and not paying attention to anything or giving a shit about anything. It was a slow deterioration over the next 7 years. The last 2 years, in 06 and 07 and 08, early 08, boy, I got a DUI. I drank every day. I smoked. I did coke. I did all kinds of shit, and I did anything that was around because I kept trying to cover up all my emotions and my feelings, and I dug myself deeper and deeper into this hole. But I had already been clean, and that was the worst part about all of it. Was they always say that once you're around the program and you're involved and you have a sponsor and you go to meetings regularly, and then you go back out there and use, it's like going straight to hell. Every day I was like, oh, I'll go to a meeting next month, because I know that there's a better way for me to be living. But my disease kept saying, nah, just use tonight, and maybe tomorrow you can go to a meeting. And I'd have all these crazy head conversations with myself saying, maybe tomorrow, maybe next month, maybe later you can get some help or whatever. And it was tough. It was a horrible time in my life. So for anybody that's been around the program and then gone back out there, it's tough. It's embarrassing. It's shameful. When I had first come around the rooms, my nickname was Happy Joe, And a lot of the old timers, the people that were around when I was clean before, said, "Oh, look, it's Happy Joe, he's back." And I didn't feel so happy. I felt pretty ashamed. I felt like I needed to earn back my, a lot of self-pity. I don't know, just a lot of, fear about what other people would think of me when I did come back. There was a lot of stuff going on, and it's a painful thing. So, if you've had a relapse and you made it back and you've been around the program before, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad I'm here. It was a struggle there for seven and a half years. It was one of the longest time periods of my life, and I wrote all about it in my fourth step, and yeah, it was a tough time. Anyway, I'm going to move forward a little bit. I came back to the program November 28th, 2008. I did not have insurance. I did not have much of anything. I didn't have a pot to piss in. I had an air mattress with a hole in it that I would put duct tape over to keep it blown up. I thought I was living the high life because I had a air mattress blower upper with 4 double D batteries in it. I would pull it out at all my acquaintances' houses to live there. And when I would piss somebody off, I would go to my other friend's house, and then go to my other friend's house, and then it was a really depressing time in my life. And if anybody's been there where they're living out of their car or living at a friend's house on the couch or in the basement, there was a time frame where I was living in my friend's garage. It was just a wild time frame, and it was all pride, ego, lack of humility. I didn't want to, deal with anything or face anything. So, November 28th. That is Thanksgiving, roughly 7.5 years ago. I called my parents, said, "I need some help, and I need some help right now." And one other time I had tried to call my parents for help about two or 3 years previous. I think it was shortly after I got my DUI in like 2004 or 5. And I went over there, and my parents thought it was okay to just detox me at their house because I didn't have insurance. And I started to hallucinate, because that's what happens when you drink. Like, I drank a handle a day, and smoked and drank and took pills a day, everything, black out every day. So I started to hallucinate one time before. So my parents are like, "All right, we are going to give you some alcohol today. We're going to try to get through Thanksgiving, and then tomorrow morning we are going to go down to Linden Oaks." And so I went to Linden Oaks. They said, "You don't have insurance. You can pay us $7,500 up front for 1 week of treatment, or we'll see you later." So I didn't have $7,500. My parents didn't have $7,500. But I wanted to stay clean. I wanted this nightmare to end. So I went right across the street to Edwards Hospital. Got hooked up to some detox type stuff, and got a bunch of vitamins and nutrients and stuff like that hooked up to me for about 4 or 6 hours. Got a small prescription for folic acid and vitamin D and something else, I think, extreme doses or whatever, to try to wean me off the alcohol. That, oh my gosh. That is one of the toughest things to detox off of when you drink as heavily as I was. Hallucinations would happen. I'd see little black dots on the sides. I'd feel like I was walking when I wasn't. It was a really scary time in my life. So when I went to Edwards Hospital, I was like, I'm done. It ended up the nurses and everything. I thank them every day. It ended up being about $650 because I wanted to stay clean, because I already knew that there was a path out there. And there's this old saying in our book that says you can't save your face and your ass at the same time. And I was like, I'm not going to save either of them in this case here. I'm like, this is enough for me. So I detoxed that morning about 10 o'clock till, I don't know, 4 o'clock or something like that. And then my dad and I, we drove around all afternoon until the next meeting would happen. In between there, I called my old friend Brian. I only knew his parents' phone number by heart. It's really weird. I knew my dealer's and my old buddy's parents' house number. So that was it. I called him and just tried to move forward, but and I did, and I got clean because I wanted to, because I had the desire to stay clean, and it was so worth it. And today I have about 2,788 days clean, all in a row. I fought for them, lost my hair over them. This has been a growing time in my life. I'm not as far along as I wish I would be. I wish I had more. I wish I had, better I wish I would not procrastinate and take care of more of my stuff and that kind of thing. But today I'm married to a beautiful, wonderful woman, and can't wait to start the second part of my life here. More kids and stuff like that in the future. And I want to be responsible today. This program has given me a lot of freedom and a lot of opportunities. If you're new to the program, I recommend that you do a couple of things. After I detoxed, I went to 90 meetings in 90 days, and I probably hit about 120 or 130. I got a home group. I recommend you get a home group. Mine right now is in Oswego. It's at roughly 95th, just a little bit west of 30. It's on Friday nights from 7 to 8:30. I helped start that meeting along with another awesome guy, Ryan, here. We call it the Field of Dreams. It's in the middle of nowhere and a bunch of corn. It's where I call home now. I call NA home because I want to be here. Because I know that there's nothing better out there for me. Nothing out there. I can't put drugs in my body and not let the allergic reaction happen. That's what happens. Just, I break out in handcuffs and judgments and all kinds of shit. I'd love to say I'm further ahead than where I'm at right now. I still have some credit things I need to deal with in my life, and I need some more courage to deal with that stuff. But it takes a while to undo the wreckage of our past. Another thing I recommend doing is asking somebody to be your sponsor. Sponsorship is one of the most important, crucial aspects of our recovery. And I've had a few sponsors. You may have a few sponsors too. Don't be afraid to change sponsors if you don't think you have the best sponsor in the world. Everything will work out. Your sponsor won't be offended if you change sponsors or whatever, because we're all here to help each other. And if you can, help another person, do something, do it for yourself. I mean, this is somewhat of a selfish program, but helping other people is an important part of helping yourself. I'm truly grateful to be here, and that's all I got.
All right.